Everybody, welcome back to the FlippingJunkie Podcast. I'm super excited today because I have my beautiful wife, Melissa,
Hello.
with me on the podcast. And we're going to be sharing what exactly FreedomDriven is. And I've already forgotten the script.
You forgot the script.
All right, we'll just have to wing it.
All right.
Well, basically, we had been talking about this journey that we've been on and all the things that we've done over the years. And was it 15 years now?
15 years, yeah.
Wow.
I know, right? That's a long time.
It's gone by so fast. But we've been flipping houses for 15 years and done all of these things in between. And there's so many things that people out there listening to the podcast don't know that we're involved in. And I wanted to just have this episode where Melissa and I share with you our journey all the way through this crazy 15 years and, announce something at the end of this that we've kind of let out a little bit, but something exciting that we're doing. But, an example of this was on Facebook, where I noticed the other day somebody in the Flip Pilot Facebook group had asked the question of who in San Antonio are wholesalers, looking for wholesalers in San Antonio. Melissa replied that we're wholesalers and sent them to our cheapsanantoniohouses.com website where we have our wholesale deals. And the person responded with, "Wow, is there anything that you guys don't do?" And I thought it was kind of amazing, right? Like,
yeah, it was pretty cool because there's a lot of things.
Right, and I made me realize that we do talk about the things that we do, but we know that we've talked about all these things throughout time, but people listening might not have heard all those other things and know sort of the story. So we wanted to have this episode be sort of that, documentary type thing of
kind of, yeah, of timeline sort of
this journey. So we can start with what started that whole discussion was FreedomDriven and the company that we have. That not a lot of people know about the company that we have that have the products that we do, which is Lead Propeller, real estate investor websites, REI Mobile CRM system, our new CRM system, Flip Pilot. We also have seller lead hacks, training. We have the FlippingJunkie blog and this podcast, and and then the flipping team, right? We have the flipping business that's separate. And I wanted to talk about what exactly FreedomDriven, the company, is. And it's basically the company that we started over 5 years ago to provide software, online marketing, and training to help busy real estate investors out there achieve true freedom. Because when we got started, and for the majority of time in flipping, it was really kind of feast or famine, right? Up and down, and it just us doing everything.
Right. So, we started the company because, we were doing the Advantage, and we were talking about, core values and things like that, and like our why, like what was our why? Why did we start this company? And kind of turned out that it's the same reason as why we started flipping houses in the first place, because, we were working corporate jobs. We worked at the same place. That's how we met. And we were working for a defense contractor, and you were doing software development, and I was doing all the security stuff and accounting stuff and things like that. And it was just really, your dad was flipping houses and just having fun, and he was going on vacations all the time, and he was always, just talking about just how awesome it was. And I didn't know anything about flipping houses till you told me.
Right, and at that point, I had only experienced a Carlton Sheets course on VHS that scared me out of the business because he was doing all the cold calling. But,
yeah, I don't think that was for us. But, so, we talked about it, and we started just self-educating and got a mentor and got into it. And then we were doing that part-time while we were still working full-time jobs. So that was challenging sometimes. But we were just I just remember us being so excited about the whole thing, just like really, really excited to go out there and like do what your dad was doing and have that kind of success. And I think it was 2 weeks before our wedding, his boss came to me and he said, "I got to tell you something. It's bad. And, I was nervous, and he said, they're going to lay Danny off, and I freaked out.
Yay!
Yeah. And he was so unfazed by it. It was funny because
I was excited.
Yeah. You know, because we had been flipping houses on the side, and we had talked about wanting to go full time, but it's scary, right? It was like a big leap because we had benefits and retirement and things like that. And so...
And for timeline's sake, like we started flipping houses in 2003, and I think that was about 2.5 or 3 years of the part-time evenings, weekends, and lunch breaks going over to check on rehabs.
Yeah.
And, and that shows you how much we enjoyed it. It didn't feel like work. It was what we looked forward to getting to after work.
Right. That was way more fun than the regular job, for sure. Mm-hmm. But, he told me about the layoff and stuff, and so he just, he said, well, that's the best thing. And really, it was like the push that we needed to just do it. So you went ahead and, took your severance or whatever and went full time. And then I think I lasted like 6 or 8 more months, maybe,
right.
at the job, and said, forget this. I don't want to be sitting here anymore either. So
yeah, enough mornings of going to work where I was just like brewing coffee and sitting down in the kitchen while she had to leave to go to work. It didn't take long before.
Yeah, it's totally not fair.
And we realized that by her staying at the job, we were losing money because we weren't doing more in the flipping business with the time. And it's kind of weird, wasn't it? Like when we went full time, and when you're part time, I think it's great when people do this business part time for a while because it forces you, because you're limited with time and sometimes resources, that you're forced to focus on the 20% of things that produce 80% of the results. You're just forced to do that. And so when we first went full time, I didn't know what to do with myself, right? Like I was used to like being able to do everything in that short amount of time, and so I had all this time, and I felt like I had to keep that time filled with things to do, and I would, work on business cards and different stupid things, and she would ask me what I did all day, and it was kind of hard to come up with what exactly I did, and so that was interesting. It was kind of a challenge to go full time and do even more because we were doing so well with the short amount of time that we had, but a big part of that too was a lot of people will see other people's success or hear about somebody being full-time or a successful house flipper. And I think Brian Buffini, just the other day on the podcast, I was listening to his podcast, and he mentioned a quote from somebody, and I apologize, I don't remember who said this, but he said, we're always comparing somebody else's highlight reel with our own behind the scenes. We're always comparing somebody else's highlight reel with our behind the scenes. And that is a huge thing. I think that's a wonderful quote to remember and consider, because when it seems easy to somebody else and then we find that we're having all these difficulties, we can feel like, get frustrated and demotivated, and it can seem so hard, and you can wonder if that other person experienced that kind of difficulty or they got lucky or in a different market or something like that. And it's good to think and realize actually and hear from other people that we all go through those challenges. It's hard for all of us. And it might look easy because you're only seeing their highlight reel, but we were kind of scared whenever I was getting laid off, even though we had done the business for a while. And it really took that push from the company I was working for to let me go to get us out there and actually do it. And it wasn't an easy thing. And
no, definitely. There were so many moments of getting out of our comfort zone and so much growth. When you look back now, it's like all those things that we went through. It was just, we're both super introverted. Mm-hmm. We can be extroverted when we need to be, but just getting out of your comfort zone to do things like talking to people that you've never talked to before, and just, it's really a learning experience.
Yeah, definitely, like getting out of the comfort zone. So if you struggle with, living a life a certain way for 20, 30 years, and then all of a sudden you're wanting to get into flipping houses, and you're having to talk with sellers about their house and possibly buying their house, it can be super scary. And, we struggled with that, and I was scared to death, like when we started doing our marketing, because we started doing motivated seller marketing. So we were marketing to people, saying we buy houses fast, and we started putting up bandit signs and sending postcards to houses we saw while we were driving around neighborhoods.
Yeah, so the bandit signs were fun, right?
Oh, you're gonna go there.
I'm gonna go there. Yeah. No, it was fun. Like we had so much fun with everything. We made it fun. But it was scary at the same time too. Like you're putting out bandit signs. We get up at like 4:00 in the morning or something crazy and go get coffee and just drive around. And I remember the one time you were putting the bandit sign up and climbing up the pole and you fell or what happened? The ladder was all wobbly.
Yeah, I was using a little step ladder, and so
it started wobbling. I could see from the truck because I wasn't out there because it was cold, and so I was watching through the windshield, and I just see him like grabbing and grasping this pole and like sliding down, and just like all these nails sticking out of it.
Yeah, rusty nails all over those poles, and I'm grabbing on for dear life so I don't fall and scraping.
And running across field, losing your shoe.
Right.
Don't wear flip-flops when you put out bandit signs.
Yeah, not a smart idea, especially when some of those
idea.
fields with the poles, are pretty well overgrown, could have snakes and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, but then even, getting our first phone call, I know we probably told this story before, but just being so nervous, your phone rang, and I was sitting on the couch watching TV or something, and all of a sudden he's like, the phone's ringing, somebody's calling, from the marketing, and I just remember the phone like...
I threw it to her.
He literally threw it to me, and I picked it up, and I didn't know what to say. We didn't have a script or anything like that. I knew generally just to get some information, but I don't even think I got their address. I think we had to call back or something.
The first call, we got some information, and she was like, "What do I ask?" And I'm trying to think, and I didn't know. And then we realized afterwards we got all this information, but no address. So
yeah, so we had to call back. That was. Somebody had to pick up the phone, right? So it was good. We did that. And then, getting our first deal under contract was super exciting. But we didn't know what to do with the contract even after we got it. We knew it needed to go to the title company, but we didn't know what to say or anything. So I think you had called your dad, right? We were like...
It was like, we're sitting in the parking lot of the title company, but we don't know what to say when we go inside of it.
What do we do with this thing, right? So yeah, he said just take it in and say that you need to get this contract receipted, and I think I took it in there and just robotically said word for word what he just said to say, and then they knew what to do, but we were clueless.
Right. Yeah. So it's as you do this, right? You come into those situations that aren't covered in in the books and on forums, and those little in between things of just even the say that you need to get something receipted. You start to learn all those things, but you learn all those things by doing it, right? Like we didn't concern ourselves with mastering and knowing exactly every step of this business before we did something. We just knew what we needed to do first, and it was more from lack of knowledge that we handled it that way, but we did it, and I think that's what enabled us to make progress, is because we weren't so concerned. Like we knew we could get help when we needed it as we were going through, and I think that was a huge benefit, but it was super, super scary, right?
Yeah, it was.
For a long time. And getting comfortable doing that, going into sellers' homes and walking through their homes and hearing about some sad situations and tough things. And it was it's really something that took some getting used to.
Definitely.
Right. And so when I was mentioning those products that FreedomDriven has, Lead Propeller, Flip Pilot, a lot of these things you might notice, sort of have an aviation theme to them. And, sometimes I worry that people will see what we have and think that we're, like an airplane company or something. But, basically where that started from was one of our house flipping mentors. We had gone to Michigan and had a flight with him. It was our first flight in a small airplane, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I was a little scared.
Yeah.
If you've never been in a small plane before, it's like flying in a car.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, we flew over Lake Michigan and got to see like some shipwrecks in the water. It was just beautiful. It was awesome. And so we were flipping houses for several years, and I think it was up to about 2010. We had gotten to the point where we were pretty consistent. Like our marketing, we kept going, and we would have the deals coming in pretty consistently. And we felt really comfortable and sort of playing semi-retired a little bit, just not working as hard as we had been. And we decided to take a vacation on the West Coast where we'd go from San Diego all the way up to Seattle.
Yeah.
and we were going to take about a month to do that. And so while we were doing that, there was a place called McMinnville, Oregon, and they've got a museum there, and they have Howard Hughes's Spruce Goose, which is like the giant wooden airplane he built in there. And so we went to see that, and there were some small planes in there. And I told Melissa, when we get back, I'm going to start taking flying lessons. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, you were super pumped.
Right. So when we get back to Texas, that's what I'm going to do. So we got back, and I went ahead and took some flights and started taking those lessons. And during that time, it was about 2 months where that was pretty much all I was doing. I was just so focused on it. And of course, I would take calls and go to appointments, but in between all of that, I was like in the books and going on three flights a week or so and learning all of this stuff, trying to get that as quick as I could. And after I passed and got certified and I got my license, things started to change in our business. And that's, I think, when we had known this before, but this kind of experience happened pretty strong at this point, where what you do for your marketing, so if you do motivated seller marketing and you do the stuff to get leads and deals for your flipping business, what you experience now typically is due to what you've done over the last 3 months or 3 months prior. So if you start doing a bunch of direct mail, you start experiencing results maybe about 3 months down the road. And so while I was doing
all that time with you flying,
right,
kind of slacked off on the marketing, and so
the leads were still coming in during that, but after I got the license, after that was over with, it was kind of dried up, right?
Yeah, it was pretty slow. So, I think that's when we started talking about, okay, we need some accountability. Like, what are we going to do here? And
it was almost like starting over. It's like, well, we need to get all this ramp back up, and I want to go flying all the time, but we've got to run this business.
We got a business to run.
But we also wanted to start helping people also learning it, because several people had asked us how to get started and all that kind of stuff. So we just started to start FlippingJunkie, and that way we can start writing about the things that we had learned up to that point, and we can get some accountability. And I had been looking at different blogs online about flipping houses, and typically people would describe the house that they were fixing up, like, we're going to do sheetrock today, or we're going to paint and stuff like that. But they never talked about how they got those deals, or the process of putting it under contract and negotiating with the seller and all that kind of stuff. All that was missing from that. And then you have other blogs where people would tell you the how-to of doing a certain kind of marketing or something like that, but they wouldn't really talk about the deals that they were doing.
Right.
And so why not have the accountability, and we can share everything that we're doing to get this business ramped back up, and our planning, and then our marketing, all the leads that were coming in, talk about each call that came in and why the seller wanted to sell, and how we determined whether we were going to go see the house, and then the negotiation of the buying, and
just the stories and stuff too that went along with that, because you see some
all
crazy stuff. Just really
definitely not a boring business at all.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Right. And so then and so you have all that, and we did that for 34 weeks of blog posts covering everything in the business, and I think it was about 500 leads that we generated. So we showed how we did that, and most of it was from our website, and decided to put all that into a book a couple years later. And it's actually kind of cool, because we just had that edited to where it was a digital book before. You could download the PDF, but I don't know about you, but I can't stand reading.
Yeah, I have a hard time reading on a
books,
Kindle or
on the computer.
Yeah.
And so we had it edited, and now it's a print book. So you can actually get the physical book, and I think it's incredible. It's awesome. And we're doing it where you can get it for free. You just pay for shipping to get the book, but it's pretty cool. And if you haven't read that book, or you've read it before and you want to get the physical copy, go to FlippingJunkie.com/book. FlippingJunkie, and Junkie is JUNKIE.com/book. And you can get that for free, including shipping. And at that point, so we were ramping that business back up, and we were doing really well, and it was fun, posting on the blog post. And then our son, which is the youngest of the 5 kids that we have, was
only boy.
Was born.
He was born. Yeah, that was in 2011. So I guess it was about 2012 or so. It was right after Weston was born. We were talking and we were having a lot of success with the blog and everything, and people contacting us. And so we were just, starting to things started to change. Like we wanted to start helping people more because we realized how valuable the blog was, right? Like people were just emailing and, just so appreciative of everything that we had shared up until that point. And so that's when we actually formed the company FreedomDriven that has all the products and everything. So the first thing that we were talking about, it's like, well, if we want to do education, like what is something that is a concern for a lot of people? And what we were hearing
that's keeping them from getting into the business, right?
Yeah. And it seemed like what we were hearing was people were just concerned, they wanted to get into flipping, but they had no money. And so, we came up with the idea of doing a wholesaling course. So that was actually the first product that we created in the FreedomDriven company. And that was Freedom by Flipping that you created and everything. And that was released 2013.
Right, that was 2013. Freedom by Flipping was released. And that was like another growing moment, right? And the blog was too, putting ourselves out there and even recording videos. And we've got some old videos from back then.
Oh, they're so bad.
They're really bad. Hopefully these are much better. Maybe in a couple of years we'll look back at these too and say, and if you haven't seen videos from the podcast, FlippingJunkie or youtube.com/FlippingJunkie, you can see those. And this is on there too as a video, so you can see us awkwardly sitting here. But yeah, so that was interesting doing those things, and that reminds me, I think that was that roughly about the time when we had a lot of different TV casting people reaching out to us, right?
Yeah, I think that's when all that stuff started too. People were just contacting us and wanting to, hey, you want to be on a TV show? And, and we kept just ignoring it because, again, that was a comfort zone thing. We just didn't want to participate in that. And then finally, I think we said, fine, we'll try it and just see. And they, I forgot what production company it was, but they sent out a camera crew and they came to the house, and it was so awkward. It was the most awkward thing ever. I think still maybe to this day. Because I don't know, we're just, I don't think we're those kind of people. And so they followed us around all day long. They came in our house and they talked to us, and they talked to the kids, and they were, asking the kids if they were interested in house flipping, and our kids are not interested in house flipping at all. They want to no part of any of that. And they drove around, followed us around all day, and went to some properties. And
an angry neighbor come by that one house that we were at. Yeah,
and there was a little drama, which we didn't even have to create. But that was kind of cool.
Yeah. And that also was part of the problem too, is they wanted to escalate that problem, right? Like they wanted to be more than it was. And I just wanted to deal with the problem because we had a neighbor, and I wanted to make sure we were on good terms with them, flipping this house next door. And so that was kind of a conflict, right? Like, it's when I kind of felt like I didn't want to create situations just for the drama of TV.
Yeah, that we're not drama people, so you want your business to run smooth, right? You don't want to have all those those problems and then have, everybody seeing it on TV.
Yeah, it was super awkward. And I remember being in the yard of that house afterwards. They wanted like this a thing for the when they put together this thing to pitch the networks, they wanted this one thing where it's like this sort of tagline kind of thing or something about
some kind of high energy, like crazy thing.
To infinity and beyond, or
no,
it wasn't that, but it was. They wanted something similar. Like I had to say something, and it was like 4-5 sentences or something. And it took, 50 takes or something?
It was a lot. He kept doing it, and he just had to, jump and be all high energy, and it was super awkward. It was awkward to watch, sorry. And then
I'm sure it was. And then I finally got it, and the guy didn't have the camera recording on the one. I was like, are you kidding me? I wanted to smack him. But anyway, so that was
a fail.
Yeah, that was a fail. But and the reason why we want to bring this up, too, is that all these things require getting out of comfort zones, and we've made mistakes. We've made tons of mistakes and been uncomfortable and done these things. And so if you're, getting started in this business or scared of taking your business to the next level and creating a team and all that kind of stuff, just know that, it's worth it to do that, to grow, because those challenges are what create the growth in us, right? In order for us to have the success we want, we have to become the person required to get that success. We have to change ourselves first, and that's what we have to do. But back to, I think you had mentioned the Freedom by Flipping course, and when we had launched that, the wholesaling course, and it was super exciting to create that course because I had been driving for dollars a lot, listening to Jim Rohn, all of Jim Rohn's stuff. He's like a business philosopher, motivational speaker, kind of self-help guy. And I was listening to his recordings over and over and over again while we were driving for dollars. And, I wanted to focus on that part that a lot of the other courses I'd seen out there hadn't focused on, which is self-development and mindset. And knowing that that's really what's keeping a lot of people from doing the things. They already know what they need to do with the flipping business, right, a lot of times.
Right, yeah. I think it's just having that foundation, I think, is just so important, because if your mind isn't right, none of the other things are going to, because as you face those challenges and everything, if you don't know how to deal with it in your mind, then you're going to have problems.
Right. Right, and even after we've experienced problems in the middle of being in the business where we had some dry spells where maybe a couple months we barely generated any leads or didn't get any deals, and we had to, look at that and look at ourselves and say, why is this happening? And on several occasions, it turned out that we were starting to become of the opinion that it was harder to get deals. We were saying it to ourselves, we were saying it to our team, and we were finding that our mindset had shifted to where we were having these excuses or having these reasons for why things had changed and we weren't getting the deals. And we said, well, maybe it's because of our mindset. It shifted the wrong way. We have to affirm that the deals aren't that hard to get. Things really hadn't changed, but our mindset had changed, and let's change it back. It's easy to get deals. We're going to get these deals, and it's amazing how things change.
Yeah.
And things pick up again, and so it's pretty incredible. It might sound a little like foo-foo or whatever, but it really, I'm serious. If you're struggling with that kind of thing, really try it. Right? What do you have to lose? But you have to really believe it. You can't just say it. Don't say affirmations without belief. That doesn't work. But if you can really believe it, it really helps. And people new in the business, when they getting that first deal is so hard, right? I think
it took us months to get our first deal.
Like six or 9 months or something.
Yeah, at least 6 months.
And then how long for the second one?
It was a few months after that even, I think. But then once we started, realizing what needed to be done, then it started coming. And, once you have a couple of successes, it's definitely
Well, it's
helps.
easier to have faith that you're going to get more, and then they start rolling in. So the compounding of the marketing, and plus the knowing that we can get deals and we're going to get deals, it really takes off. But I think I got sidetracked a little bit.
You did.
But one of the things for the mindset pieces I really love in Jim Rohn, his last name is spelled R-O-H-N. So if you're looking for that, don't look for Rome, look for Rohn, R-O-H-N. He's got some great things. And he's got a quote I really like: learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. And I firmly believe that. He also had said, work on your philosophy, work on your attitude, work on your personality, work on your language, work on the gift of communication, work on all your abilities. And if you'll start making those personal changes, I'm telling you, everything will change for you. And
It's a wise man, that Jim Rohn.
oh yeah, super wise.
He really is.
And that's also why I like listening to the Brian Buffini podcast, because
I love Brian Buffini.
and he learned so much from his whole style is built on Jim Rohn's speaking style. And you get the added extra bonus, that cherry on top of the
Irish accent?
right. That's what I was trying to spit out. See, I still need to work on my communication.
Yeah.
So we had this training course, right, in teaching wholesaling houses to people, helping other people get into this business even though they didn't have the money to buy a house and fix it up and then sell it. The possibility with wholesaling was there. And around this time, I think it was, so this was about 2013. We started flipping houses 2003. We did the FlippingJunkie blog in 2010 in the book. In 2013, we did this training course, and I was talking to my friend Brandon, and he had done a video for Bigger Pockets, and I wanted to find out how he created that video because I thought it was really cool the way it was done. And while I was talking to him, the discussion turned to the book that we had just released, which is the Flipping Houses Exposed book. And he was talking about how the majority of the leads came from, our website, and saying, why aren't, nobody's providing investors websites. And you're a software developer, that's what the job was that I had, a degree in computer science. And so when we were working for that defense contractor before we started flipping houses, I was developing software. So I have a degree in computer science and developing software. And so and Brandon said, look, he connected the dots for me because he said, you are a software developer, you built your own website, you learned SEO, you figured out how to rank it, you're getting all these leads and deals from it. And other people want a website, but there's no really place to go to get one for an investor without having to hire somebody and figure it all out.
Have it all custom made and everything.
Right. So the idea then was to create a system for that, and that's where Lead Propeller came from. That's where the idea of creating that, and I was super excited because I could spend some time developing some new applications, and we created Lead Propeller, and it was cool because Lead Propeller websites allow real estate investors to have an advantage over their competition because as active house flippers, using websites to generate these motivated seller leads to create deals, we knew that we needed certain things to happen. And a big one was the reason why we had Blackberries back in the day. Right? It's because with the BlackBerry, you could get a notification of an email as soon as it came in, right? So it gave you an advantage. And I think that's why most people had those.
Oh, we were hot stuff with the Blackberries.
Hot messes. No, but
You.
Yeah, just got to work on that communication again. So what we needed to do is when somebody came to our website, right, and they say, okay, I would like to sell my house and get a cash offer, and they would fill out the form, that would send an email to us with that information. But if we didn't check our email constantly, it could be a couple hours before we knew that somebody was on the website and filling out the form. And by that point, they could have hit the back button, gone to another website, and talk to them. And it's really about who talks to that person first is most likely to get the deal, is what we found over time. And so it's so critical that we speak to that seller first, right? So we built in the ability to do texting so that when the lead comes into the website, that person will get a text after a short delay that says, hey, we got the information about the house at 123 Main Street, or whatever they put in the form, so it seems personalized, like somebody actually typed it. And then as the website owner, we were getting the text notification about the lead with the person's name, phone number, address, and we could click on that text and call them right away. So while they were likely still on our website, we could talk to them, and it really just changed things. And then, that was a part of Lead Propeller, and it was really cool. Who was the first customer?
Wasn't your dad the first customer?
That's right.
I think he was.
Yeah, so my dad was that's right. He was the first customer. I know he had come to help test it out, but he was the first customer, and I was kind of nervous putting a product out there because I had developed CRM systems for internal use for us.
Yeah.
Over the years.
I think it's funny too, we had actually had a website for a long time, prior to that, where I think a lot of people, that wasn't such a thing, because I remember we were still doing Yellow Page ads and things like that, and still getting a lot of deals off of that stuff, billboards, things and just all the regular, bandit sign, drive for dollars, all that kind of stuff. But the website really changed everything for us, I feel like. And so it was cool to be able to develop Lead Propeller and share that with other investors so that they could have the same success that we were having with it. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool, and just the consistency and just the quality of the leads tended to be great. But the other benefit of that too was, at that point we were still hand addressing envelopes ourselves, stuffing envelopes, and doing crazy stuff like that, and it's just us running that plus launching the software.
Yeah, so we were doing house flipping and software at that point, just just the two of us.
It's crazy. I don't know how.
We must have not slept.
Right, and then a family of 5, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 7. Sorry, it's not even. Can't even add for it.
Because we have like 1 million kids. So.
Right, and so with the launch of Lead Propeller, I knew we needed some help with that. Right, I'm not going to be able to manage this without help, and it was kind of the time that forced us to finally bring help on. We'd always wanted to keep everything small, and that way we could go on vacation when we wanted and all this kind of stuff. But I needed somebody to help with that, and so I hired Cameron Holland. And
shout out to Cameron.
Hey, Cameron. But when he came in, it was so funny because we had finally moved out of the home office. We had an office down the street, and it was tiny.
It was like 2 rooms with a pocket door in between.
Right, walls paper thin.
Yeah, and I think they opened up into the hallway too with windows, so anybody walking by could just,
see inside.
See what we were doing in there. It's kind of weird.
And so when Cameron joined, he came and he actually literally had to sit at my desk with me, which was really awkward and really weird. So I went and bought a small IKEA table or something and put it against the wall. Then he was facing a wall that was only like inches from his face, trying to work on his laptop, and it was pretty insane. So for all of you longtime Lead Propeller customers out there that called in for support and either had me handle it or had Cameron handle it, probably have some funny stories of things from then. But we've grown quite a bit in that company. But this is around the time also that things started changing for us overall. So we knew we needed to bring people on. We had been against it for a long time, thinking that it would create this responsibility we didn't want to have. But it was really leaving us with all the responsibilities, which was what we didn't want either.
Yeah.
It was the bigger thing. And that's around the time I had gone to a marketing conference and met somebody there whose wife wanted to get into flipping houses. So I chatted with him during this whole conference. And then they contacted me a couple weeks later saying that they had a friend, Justin Williams in California, who wanted to be on the blog and, to talk with me because I had the blog and everything. And so I spoke with him, and it turns out that he, had built this company up that was pretty much running his flipping business. And, he's like a master delegator and team builder. And I wanted to find out how he did that, right? Like, he did it, I can do it. I want to go and find out how he did it. So after talking to him on the phone one day, I said, hey, do you mind if I fly out there and spend a day with you? And he said, well, let me check with my wife. And he called me right back. He said, yeah, cool, come on, fly out here. So I flew out there like 2 days later. And he picked me up from the airport, and we're driving down the freeway in California. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, let's go check out some of your properties, and I can see how your operation's set up. And he turned to me and he said, well, honestly, I don't know where they're at. And even if I did and I showed up, the contractors wouldn't know who I was. And I have to be honest, my mind was saying, is this guy for real? Like, does he actually have this going on? Because that sounds a little, kind of crazy. But after spending the day with him and talking with his team and seeing the way all that worked out, I knew that he really did have it set up to where he wasn't needing to be as involved in the business, especially not nearly as much as we had, up at that point. And here we are. This is 2014.
Yep, 2014.
So over 10 years of flipping.
Yeah, so 10 years of flipping and, us taking on software in addition to that. So, time was at a premium, I think, at that point. And so we decided we needed to get some help. Just, we had Cameron helping out with the software, but needed some help in flipping business too, because that time I was involved in the business, but you were still going on appointments and stuff like that too, along with everything else. And so we started working with Sky Sam, and we did some deals with him, kind of like a partner. Like we were both marketing, and we were teaching him how to rehab and things like that, and splitting profits and stuff. So we did a few deals like that. And then I think he went out on his own shortly after that. But then actually my brother Josh started working with us. And so he spent months and months and months, maybe, how long was he doing? Maybe a year?
Yeah,
or maybe longer.
I think it was about a year.
Yeah, we trained him, and so then he was going out and making appointments and meeting with sellers and talking to them, and he really learned the business from the bottom up also. And he actually is working with us now in a different capacity. He's
Right.
our director of services for Lead Propeller. So
Right. Yeah, he
really did have that experience of being an investor.
Right. Yeah, it was really cool to have him come in and learn the business and go to meet with all of these sellers. And, he's great because he's got the empathy. He can relate to sellers and talk with them. And, it's just an amazing thing to see. So that was pretty cool to see him getting into the business with us back then. And I think that was about the time where we had actually been, since I had CRM systems I had built for our company to manage all these leads over time. But they were all just for us. They were ugly. They were probably pretty buggy, but it was just for us. So we had, we just worked around the problems and fixed them up and did crazy things where I tried to do things to scrape websites and do other things. But
Right. Well, because I think it was at that time when you're doing properties consistently, you need some way to keep track of things.
mm-hmm.
So that was kind of our way of handling that.
Yeah, we felt like it gave us that edge, right? Like we've got this edge. Other people are using, spreadsheets and notebooks, mostly just notebooks and sticky notes, which is what we had started with at first and quickly found like, hey, we need to create some software here to do this. But this is around the time. So after Lead Propeller, and actually the idea was there right before Lead Propeller, but, everything was kind of moving onto web-based. And the idea of having your system available to you any place with an internet connection or cellular, data was, you can get to your data, you can get to your leads, you can get to your info, your seller info, all that kind of stuff. And so, we immediately set about creating a web application, a CRM system. And so in 2015, after about 2 years of development, we were able to release that. And so super exciting. The CRM was awesome, right? And it still is. We still actually use REM Mobile, but we're actually transitioning to what we're going to announce in a little bit. But REM Mobile was great, right? It had all the stuff that gave us an advantage and allowed follow-up automation and stuff like that, which was really cool. But I wasn't ready.
Yeah, but it was good. Like, we were able to track our leads. We were able to follow up on properties. It was just... It was good to have, and I think that, it was good to see our cost per lead and our cost per deal so that we could focus on our marketing, and it just made the business so much more efficient having some kind of system in place that was kind of doing all that stuff for us instead of the notebooks and the spreadsheets and everything.
Some organization and, the focus that you put on a lot of it, especially lately, is, sometimes investors are so focused on finding more leads or getting more leads, but you stopped and said, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's so much in the system that's like ripe for follow-up, and having that follow-up, so like the follow-up sequences and being able to contact people and having all that data in one place, we can contact people and we get a lot of deals from follow-ups. I mean, that one was follow-up for like years, I think, the one on Woodlawn.
Woodlawn was, I think, a 6 or 8 year
and it was just
ordeal.
Constantly following up. But I think, having that system really made that possible, because that could have easily just gone by the wayside. 6-8 years on following up on a property. And then we bought it and made money. So it was really cool.
Right. Yeah, and then the system allowed us to automate that follow-up, so we didn't have this notebook of properties that we were
trying to keep track of for 8 years.
we review and then go in and call them after a couple of years because we saw it again. We saw that note again and called them. And so, adding that stuff in was great. But the release of the CRM system, when I said that the CRM system was ready, but I wasn't, it was because it was one of those growth moments. And I'm somewhat of a perfectionist, and I think Melissa is as well. And so, like, knowing that certain things in the system, when we tried to add some new things, would kind of affect other parts of the system, and then we had to look at the fact that, maybe this isn't going to scale as much as we need it to. And what if we have a flood of users and then the system is not able to handle it? There was that time of, like, we've got a lot more to learn for the software to make sure that it's robust, and I don't want to put something out that might have these problems. And it was around that time that I had a friend, Don Roberts, here in San Antonio, that called me and he said, "Hey man, Aria Mobile is awesome. Why are you not pushing this out there? Everybody needs this." And, I told him, well, we got to make some changes here, and we got to do this and that. And then he said, well, let me buy you coffee or whatever, and, I need to talk to you. And so he, invited me out, and I went to his office and had coffee, and he said, "Danny, look, like, you put the software out, it was incredible, but it was almost like you were afraid, you put it out there, and, you just didn't do anything with it, what's going on?" And like I said, we just had those concerns with, the way the technology was built on. Things were already changing from that. And so at that point, we already started thinking of a 2.0 version, like, some way from lessons learned over a couple years of that. So we had our ideas that we were recording, that we were putting down, and when we started using Trello and stuff, and having that idea to do that, which we'll get back to because that's part of what we're sharing today. But in October 2015, at that point we were so busy, and we keep saying it, but we really were, and flipping and building software and all that kind of stuff, and we weren't keeping up with the blog. Like, we had both posted at a certain point, we were both posting and doing things like that, but it got to the point where we just completely dropped the ball and hadn't updated the blog in a long time. And around that time, podcasts were becoming very popular, and I enjoyed listening to them and said it'd be really cool just to interview other investors, and then we don't have to write the content.
It's a lot easier, probably more fun too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. and Melissa was just on the Bigger Pockets podcast, so shout out for that. But so you'll see hers soon on the Bigger Pockets podcast, her interview with Brandon. But so we decided to start the podcast. So that's the FlippingJunkie Podcast that you're now listening to. And the first episode was with my dad, and I was so super nervous, like recording something that was live. It wasn't like a blog post you can just edit or whatever and do all that kind of stuff. And I guess we could edit the the podcast, but I didn't want to edit. I didn't want to spend hours editing a podcast. So most of them are not edited. I mean, they're just as they are. And I think people appreciate that because, we share the real us. And if you go back and listen,
awkwardness and all, right?
Yeah. If you go back and listen to those, I'm too scared to. But if you go back and listen to them, I'm sure they sound somewhat unprofessional and me being kind of nervous. But that's also sharing that again is just like, if we're able to do these things and get out of our comfort zone and still face that and still to this day have these situations where, we're faced with challenges that we haven't experienced, but just knowing that you can do it and then how it feels once you do it, right? To have grown.
Oh yeah. Once you get out of that comfort zone a few times, I think it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and honestly, being on the Bigger Pockets podcast, I've thought that you were going to be so much more nervous than you were.
Oh, I was nervous.
But still, I think that after having been on this one and then other people's, Don's and Peely's and...
Yeah, it definitely, it was fun.
Right.
It was good. So, with our podcast, with the FlippingJunkie podcast, they're all in order, so it's kind of like, it's almost like getting a training course, right? Because you started at a certain point and I think it was episode 16, yeah? Mm-hmm. And I think it lasted about 60 episodes, but it's really awesome because it starts, like we talked about before, it starts with that mindset and the foundational type things and kind of goes through basically everything that you go through in starting and running your business, your real estate investing business. So there's super helpful episodes to go through. It's like, it really is like a training course, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that gets back into looking at what other podcasts we're doing. And, those first episodes felt so all over the place.
Yeah, it was kind of random, right?
Yeah, you'd have one topic and then the next day it'd be a completely different topic. And it's like, well, it'd be kind of cool to build off of the last one and have it, be something to where you could go back and listen. So that was kind of fun doing that. And, like 60 episodes all in a row to go and binge listen to and kind of like see the progression, like learning what you need when you need it.
Yeah, it's good. And so many people have said that too, right? Like they've downloaded the podcast and just binged on all of I think it was Jolita, a friend of ours in Kentucky, and she said that they went on a road trip and downloaded the Flipping Junkie, those episodes, and listened to the whole thing, the whole road trip. I thought that was kind of cool.
It's awesome. So that was October 2015, and then it was around November 2015 that we started offering services to other investors. So we had the website for a long time, and we had done, figured out SEO and ranked our website and helped other Lead Propeller customers rank their websites. And we were doing pay-per-click. We were doing AdWords to get even more of these leads and deals. And with being so busy, my brother-in-law, Josh, Melissa's brother, who had been in the business with us, talking with motivated sellers and experiencing what it was like to be an investor, started helping us out with the software business and taking over the SEO and the PPC, the pay-per-click, the Google AdWords for us, and just loved it. He just took off with it. And, that's when, and around that time, it was like, well, other real estate investors want a website for credibility, but they don't want a website just to have a website, right? Like it's got a purpose. You want deals. And ranking a website in search engines takes time. And in a competitive market, you're looking at like 10, 12 months of professional SEO, getting backlinks and stuff like that to get your site ranked up to the top 3 positions where you get all the clicks. That when you get a website and you're not willing to put that investment in or to take the time to do that, as a real estate investor, your time is better spent going out and making offers, talking to sellers and all that kind of stuff. So Josh, was like, well, why don't we allow Lead Propeller customers to use our services? I'll manage their accounts. And it's awesome because you get the benefit of him working on all these accounts for top investors across the country. And you get the benefit of what's learned in one, tried in another. And it's really cool. And it's been great because Josh absolutely loves getting results for Lead Propeller customers. And it's always been called Lead Propeller Services, but we're kind of rebranding that as Lead Propeller Fuel. And so it sounds pretty cool.
It does sound cool.
But so if you want fuel for that business, you want to throw fuel on that fire and get more leads and deals and not have to deal with it and have it managed, like Josh has been doing that. And so that was in 2015. So Lead Propeller became a different kind of, like, we still offer the websites, but we also have the services to make use of those to really get you great leads and deals. And you can tell, talking about this, we keep saying we were so busy still dealing with all this. I think things sort of came to a head in 2016, right?
Yeah, I think 2016 was that was crazy. Like, I mean, at this point, you got to think we're still flipping houses. We've got REI Mobile we're working on. We've got Lead Propeller. We got Lead Propeller Services Fuel. The podcast, like all of those things. And plus, we're people. We have lives and families and, stuff like that. So we were just doing a lot, and I feel like we were really spread too thin, and we knew that something needed to change, just to alleviate some of all of that stressfulness and all that work and everything. And so did Justin approach you about the mastermind? So we joined a mastermind group, which was really, really awesome. I think that was kind of pivotal.
Right. Justin Williams, our good friend, his mastermind group we decided to get into.
Yeah. And so we went to that first meeting, and it was really eye-opening for us because at that point it was still just the two of us flipping houses because and I take it back. We had made one hire to do acquisitions, just to take that off your plate because you were still going on appointments and talking to sellers.
It's insane.
In between all of that. And I was like running all the rehabs and doing all the bookkeeping and all working on some of the marketing and stuff. So it was just, we were both just doing so much. So the mastermind was really great because we were able to meet and talk to other investors all over the country because we were just so busy. We were always just to ourselves. We didn't really have any idea of like building a team or anything like that. And we knew we needed help, but we didn't know kind of where to start with all that stuff. And so, like who to hire first, like the questions we hear all the time now that we were asking ourselves at that point, who should the first hire be? How should we pay them? What are they going to do? All those things had to be figured out. So the mastermind group was super helpful with that. And so as part of the group, what you have to do, they have hot seats and you go up and you talk about your business. And for all the sharing and stuff that we've done, I don't think we'd ever done it on that level before. It was just like numbers and how many deals and like all of this really detailed stuff. But it was really great for us because as we were talking, people knew about Lead Propeller and we had a few customers in the group and stuff like that. And we were kind of all over the place because we were talking about house flipping stuff, and we were talking about the software stuff, and it was just like a lot of stuff, right? So then after our hot seat that night, we were sitting there talking, just Danny and and I said, what are we doing here? We are going crazy, because you were involved in both businesses and I was involved in both businesses, and it was just a lot of like entangled.
And we're both having to keep track of everything.
Yeah, all of that stuff. And so I said, why don't you just focus on the software, because we had a lot of big plans for software and things that we wanted to do with that, but you could only do so much. So, and I don't know anything about software. That's not my background. So, the thought was, well, you run the software, I'll get out of that and I'll just take over the house flipping stuff because I know house flipping. I had already been doing it, we'd been doing it together all that time, and it was something I was more comfortable with. And so that worked out really well for us because first thing I did was I said, I'm not going to wear all those hats like you did. So I think I'm a pretty good delegator. And so my thing was, I'm going to hire people to do all these things, like figure out what am I good at? I know where my strengths are, and then hire people to do those other things so that I didn't have to do all of it. And there was like that worry wasn't there. So, we started looking for people and hiring, and first hire was acquisitions. The next hire was a lead manager, and we went through a couple of those and made some transitions in the team, and have a project manager now. So, but there was a lot to learn about team building.
Dispositions.
Yeah, dispositions, transaction coordinator. He does both. But our team looks a lot different now than it did then. But it was all a learning curve because we didn't have a lot of employees. So, and I had never been a manager. Just so you know, like
people.
Yeah, people. Like I had never hired somebody. I'd never fired somebody. I'd never been a leader. I had a leadership position in a company that I worked for. So there was a lot to learn and a lot of mistakes made, but a lot of growth and just a lot of good education,
Right.
Real life education. But so that's kind of where that landed in 2016, just making that transition of, I'm going to take this and run with it. You take that and run with it. That way we could each be focused on what we were good at.
Right.
And I think that really helped.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah, and that's where that mastermind really helped, because other people that had gone through that or were going through that, building the teams and hiring the people and, compensation and all that kind of stuff. And then also, going through the Advantage book.
Yeah, that was a big one. If you do have a team, I recommend reading The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. Actually, all of his books are great. Oh, do you have it? Oh, here it is. Right here. The Advantage. It is an awesome book. Really good book about team building and, determining your core values and things, and stuff that seems kind of cheesy when you look at it, like for big companies and stuff like that. But if you do it the right way, and I feel like we did, it's been super helpful. It helps you make all of your decisions, and it defines who you are as a company and has those, the things that you're, this is how you're represented. This is how your team is represented, and you as an individual, and it's how we run things now. And it's super efficient, and it's very about communication with your team, which is super important.
Yeah, and don't blow through it, because I blew through it saying, okay, well, I'm task oriented, so come up with the core values and here's how you do that. And I would knock it out in 30 minutes. And
it doesn't take 30 minutes.
Right. It wasn't good. Right. And I worked with some people on my team on the software team, and we thought we had gone through it. And it was kind of like check it off the list thing, but we weren't really using it. And then more recently is why we started this whole episode on the podcast now with that discussion, is because Melissa slowed us down and said, hey, wait a minute. No, like, I'm going to force you to really determine what the true core values are and really get to the heart of all of this, and come up with the true mission that we have for helping real estate investors. And that's what, we worked through, and what FreedomDriven is, is the story of us wanting to have freedom, and it's why we got into flipping houses. And it's why we're providing everything with the help with the software and the CRMs and the training and the lead generation to help other investors get the true freedom, because we all set out to have most investors, I think, are setting out to have freedom, right? So they can do what they want when they want with their families and live life on their terms. And when we were in this business for so many years, where it was just Melissa and I, Melissa and me, we, and that's not going to be edited out either. But anyway, so when, we didn't have the freedom we thought we were going to have because we were doing so much. We had to do everything. And so that's like FreedomDriven is helping take you from that level where you're doing everything to graduating into where you do have the freedom to do what you want and have what you set out to get. And around that time, after, so Melissa's focused on really building and growing a great team for the flipping business, which freed me up a lot. And I mean, in fact, they kicked me out of the meetings. I tried to sneak in to their weekly meetings and have input, but they wouldn't let me. Told me to get lost, take a hike. But
it was better for you.
It was better. Anyway. So I was forced to focus on the software, right?
That was the point.
Booted out. No, but and so we were talking about that REI Mobile 2.0, right? That CRM system I've always wanted to build that would, grow with the new technology coming out and be able to handle that and help our businesses out and help other real estate investor businesses out. And we're building that, so we're focused on that. But I was also wanting to always improve Lead Propeller and looking at the different way we had things set up. So we have the website, right? You can get a great website, high converting SEO. It's optimized for search engines, but it still requires you to send traffic to the website, put it on your other marketing, do Craigslist ads, things like that, or do PPC in our Lead Propeller services, which is an extra cost. But what about people that had more time than money, and people that wanted to learn the online generation, or they have somebody on their team that wanted or could do those things? And so I decided to put together what ended up being called Seller Lead Hacks. And that was launched in August of 2017. And, we put it together to be that blueprint. So you got a website, you need some sort of roadmap, right? A blueprint, a step-by-step of how to make the best use out of it. Regardless of whether it's Lead Propeller or another system or a custom-built website, this is a roadmap that shows you online lead generation and the different paid and free methods of getting leads there. And I absolutely loved that we focused on Lead Propeller and online lead generation because it's the way everything is moving. In 2017, you came to me about the direct mail.
Yeah, we had been doing a ton of direct mail because that's what everybody was doing, right? And it was working, but I did this whole detailed marketing analysis thing, and I broke everything out by our channels and stuff like that because I wanted to see, what are all the things we're doing for marketing? What are we spending? What is the cost per lead, the cost per deal, average profit per source, all these things. And what I found was that the direct mail had the highest spend by far. And we were getting deals from those. We were getting more deals from our online stuff at probably at least half the cost of what I was spending for direct mail. And, we didn't have to do anything to generate those leads. because they were all coming through the website because of all the SEO and the PPC that was being done to the site. You know, those were better leads because they were motivated sellers coming to us, but then I wasn't also having to, you know, with the direct mail, you've got to pull the list and you got to create the marketing pieces and you got to mail them out or have somebody mail them out or whatever, and it's a little bit more work involved. So it was really eye-opening just to see how well that online stuff was doing. So I made a decision to pause all the mail because the spend was just so high and the return just wasn't there.
When you looked, and I liked how this gets back into my discussion before of when you were looking at things, maybe it's not so much about trying to generate more leads. Let's figure out what's going on with what we're generating, move things around a little bit. And you had looked at attrition rate. You know,
Yeah.
you're looking at, okay, we're getting all these leads in from direct mail, but how many of those are actually closing? You know, because you do have this thing where deals fall out. You put them under contract, but the seller doesn't end up showing up to closing, or title problems, and you end up losing the deal. And so, what was it, double, right? Attrition rate
Yeah,
from...
the attrition rate was way higher
Right.
with the direct mail.
It was like double, I think is what you had said. And then the other part of that was you were looking at the actual profit generated from the deals gotten from each source.
Mm-hmm.
And that the online ones produced more profitable deals for us, and that was our experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, looking at that, the focus of the online is there's so much better leads because these motivated sellers are looking for you. You know, they're you know, especially with the pay-per-click marketing and SEO where you're ranking, when people are searching for terms like how to sell my house fast in San Antonio, they already know what they want to do, or they have this situation where they're looking for help. They're acknowledging their problem, and they're already that far along in the process.
Right. They're being proactive.
Right. And with direct mail, you're sending out hoping to find those people, and with the online, they're looking for you. You know, it just from common sense says that they're going to be a lot more motivated and better deals. So with Seller Lead Hacks, what we created, and I spent 2 months, including weekends. I mean, I wanted everything in this. You know, 12 years at that point, I think, of generating thousands of motivated seller leads online with the website into this training. And what it ended up being was over 15 hours of video.
That's a lot.
Like 15 hours of video, and broken up into 6 modules, broken up into small videos so that you can go and watch and find what you need when you need it. It's not like 2-hour-long videos that you got to find stuff in the middle. And it was kind of funny because I had Andy McFarland, our good friend, had gone through this training, and he, you know, said, Danny, like this, each one of these modules could be its own training course. I mean, it covers everything. Like, this is crazy. Like, you have 6 training courses, not 1. But I didn't want to have like that roadmap to the first waypoint, right? Or the one part of online lead generation. And listening to the podcast, I can get pretty wordy. And so I want to explain everything. Like, I don't want to miss a detail, right? Like, I don't want there to be that gap. I want to fill as many of those gaps, those moments of what do we say when we're in the parking lot at the title company when we take that in. Obviously, I don't cover that in this. This is all about the online lead generation, focused on bringing in these motivated seller leads and then making sure that you turn those into deals, right? Being the first to call them back, use technology available to do that. And so that's what we've done with Seller Lead Hacks, was provide that roadmap for online success, whether you have a lead Propeller site or any other site. And we're currently doing webinars for that, where I'm showing the shift from direct mail to online lead generation. Just go to sellerleadhacks.com and you can register for that webinar. It's a great webinar. Go ahead, sellerleadhacks.com, and you can register for a spot to that webinar. And that brings us to pretty much the present day of where we are in this
So
September well, it's not yet September, just about September 2018.
September 2018. Yeah. So, you know, with all the growth and everything with both companies, you know, we had so many challenges. You know, we're still using our AI mobile, and it's been great and everything, but our team has grown, and, you know, our needs have kind of changed. And so now I'm focused with more people on the team, is like having accountability, you know. So, you know, there are things, as great as RA Mobile is, there are things that would be helpful to have, just for like tracking live answer, follow-up sequences, things like that. So we really needed a way to track things like that, KPIs for people too. Each position that I have on the team has specific KPIs. And so being able to track those, and my marketing too, if you don't know your marketing numbers, you really need to. It's so important. And being able to, the spreadsheet that I did was a literal spreadsheet. It would have been so awesome to have a system, where I could see all of those things in one place and really have this kind of snapshot of what's going on with the company. What are the people doing? Is the lead manager answering the phone? What is her response time like? How many deals are falling out? How many appointments are we going on? How many appointments are being canceled? All of those things, the system we have right now, the REA Mobile, can't do that. And so, we had been talking about different features and kind of like wish list things of like, here's all the new things now that our business has changed so much. When it was the two of us, it was a lot easier to track things. But then when you have multiple people working with you now, and everyone's got their hands in all the deals and needing to know, where we are with everything all the time, kind of led to, some changes with the software.
Right, and then also being in that mastermind with top investors across the country, the discussions with them and the systems that they're using and the problems they're having with their teams and their numbers and their KPIs. And everybody's cobbling together everything, right? Everybody's having to create these spreadsheets, even though they're using software systems, to kind of look at the numbers that they can't get with those. And a big part of that problem is they're having to cobble together solutions, right? They're having to plug in CallRail. They're going to have to use Podio, and they're using this and that. And it's really hard to see your true numbers and have a good feel of where your business is and what's going on, accountability-wise, KPI-wise. And so that became the real direction for REI Mobile 2.0. And that is what we're now calling, we built it from the ground up, completely brand new, from new technology. It wasn't easy.
It's definitely not easy.
And
nobody knows.
Right. So, but we've done it, right? We've done it. We've created that system, and it's called FlippPilot. And you've probably heard of FlippPilot. We have a FlippPilot Facebook group. And the whole idea was our transition ourselves in business and flipping, of working so much in our business and really knowing what we needed to do was work on our business, not in our business. And so that transition for us, and the FlippPilot, the whole idea of that being aviation theme and all, sounds awesome, but it's a 30,000-foot view of your business, right? If you're above your business, you can see what's happening and what needs to be changed. You have a 30,000-foot view, and you're in control, right? You're tweaking your business, making sure it's operating the way it should be, and that's the idea behind FlippPilot. Is that you can have almost a real-time look at what's going on and how it's happening, the number of calls, the number of tasks being completed, all of that kind of great stuff that you really need to be able to do when you're running a business like that with the team. Communication, everybody's got to be on the same page. I think with REI Mobile, and a lot of people have told me with Podio and things like that, almost everything that's recorded,
it's all in the notes.
They're all in notes.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to read this note stream to figure out all this stuff because it's the workaround.
Right.
Right? And so we wanted to build a system that didn't require those workarounds.
Exactly.
Built strictly for real estate investors, not like a database system that any industry can use. Like this is built for investors so that, I've seen these other systems, people charging $2,000+ for a setup fee, and it's like, what? What needs to be set up that costs $2,000? Man, that sounds painful.
Yeah. I think what's great about it too is that, it's built for investors by real investors. Like our team, we were able to give a lot of input on everything, like what our needs are. Being actual house flippers in the business has been, I think, what's going to make that really successful. And then having all those connections with all those people, all over the country, we've been listening and we hear what everyone's saying and what they want and really trying to incorporate that into this system, to make it just friggin' awesome.
Yeah.
And it's, what else is good? It's simple, and that's one of our core values, is keep it simple. And it really is. It's very, there's a lot in there, but it's very easy to use. It's very intuitive, which I think is helpful for someone like me that's not, super technology. I could figure stuff out and I'm fine, but I just think it's really easy to use and navigate, and just gives you everything.
Right. And even that was kind of hard sometimes, because we develop parts of the software and have Melissa come in to use it, to find out what the user experience was. And it was hard to keep my mouth shut, to not say, well, you need to click here or you need to do that, and just watch what she does. And kind of frustrating sometimes, because it's like, oh man, like we worked hard on that, we thought it was pretty easy, but she had a little bit of trouble figuring it out. And so we'd have to go back to the drawing board and change it up with input from that to make sure that things were. So there was a lot of that.
A lot of walking, what? A lot of talking, walking and talking. A lot of talking through all those things, right, too, just going through the mock-ups, and, it's like, well, I don't understand this, or this isn't clear, and just there's so much in there that I think makes it really good now now that we've been through all those things, right?
And so looking back at all of this, the growth in ourselves and expanding both teams and growing a team around both. And with the software side, I don't think I've mentioned it during this. Some people still think that I'm actually doing the coding on websites and things like that. But, we've automated most of it. So when you sign up, you just, it's there. You don't have to wait for somebody to set it up. And same thing with the CRM systems. But we have a team behind us. We have a team of close to 15 people on the software team, that are helping us do that and making that possible. It's a great team, too, because we've changed a lot from learning, from growing, because me, too, I didn't know how to manage people, and I was real quick to hire people, but didn't know how to hire them well.
Some good stories there, too.
Right. So, but over this last year, from last year, really, we've transitioned. We have a completely new team, and we've got everything in place, and we follow the advantaged and look at what are our core values, what's our mission, and getting people on board that wanted to be a part of that mission, right? To help real estate investors. It's not that hard, because everybody finds flipping houses exciting, right? So, but having that, right? Having that there, and knowing that that's really what we're doing. We're not just coming in and creating stuff to create stuff. There's a purpose behind it. It's for freedom, right? We're out to achieve freedom for our families and families of other real estate investors, and that's what it's all about.
Definitely. And it's been fun to see people's success too, going through this long journey and being able to help people in so many ways with all these different products and everything. It's been awesome just seeing, we've had customers that, they came in through FlippingJunkie, and then they became customers, and then we developed relationships with them, and just seeing their businesses take off, and seeing them quit their jobs and be successful. And I think that's the best. It really is. We know a lot of success stories that it's nice to know that you had a little part in that you were able to help somebody get that kind of life, the life that they wanted, and they took the action, but that we were able to provide something that would help them to do that. I think it's super cool.
Right. Which is kind of strange, coming from being so introverted, both of us, and doing everything and being pretty much real private about most things, in our beginning of our flipping and everything, and then to the point where, in a way, we're able to help other people and open up and help other people to be able to do that is just great. We're in a great place. It's a great time right now where we have our teams, and we've learned how to incorrectly build teams and then build great teams and have things be just, working out very well, and it's a very good place to be.
Yep. Very rewarding.
We couldn't do it with all of the support, though. Everybody that supports us, the customers and people listening, you guys out there listening to the podcast and telling your friends about it. And
yeah.
So
yeah, I just want to thank everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for, trusting us in your journey. It's very fulfilling, very rewarding.
Absolutely. And just to recap, so there's no more confusion about all the different things that are out there in this. I want to recap really quick. So FreedomDriven, again, is our way of helping busy real estate investors achieve true freedom by building businesses that run without them. And, if you're new to the flipping business and you haven't gotten the book, the Flipping Houses Exposed book, go to FlippingJunkie.com/book and get that book, because a lot of people have told us that really was their start in this business, because they saw what it took. It was a numbers game, right? They saw how many leads we were getting and how many leads it took to finally get a deal. And that showed them the reality, so that when they went through and they had 10 or 15 motivated seller leads that didn't turn into a deal, they knew it was normal, right? They knew that that's part of the process. And so that's great. And then subscribe to the podcast and end up binge listening like a lot of people if you want to do that kind of thing. And then if you're in that position where you're ready to start generating leads, you have that base knowledge and you're ready to get going, check out Lead Propeller websites and get that blueprint, get the seller lead hacks training that'll provide that blueprint for online success. And we are currently running a special where if you buy seller lead hacks blueprint, you get 12 months of Lead Propeller Professional with that. And so if you're already a Lead Propeller customer, you could still take advantage of that. And just go to sellerleadhacks.com, sellerleadhacks.com, and register for the webinar. I'll talk about that there. And then if you're more advanced and maybe have more money than time, your time's a little bit the thing that's at short supply right now for you, or you just have no desire to learn about search engine optimization and PPC and Facebook marketing, and you'd rather leave that to somebody else that's already done it and been through it and can do it for you, check out Lead Propeller Fuel. You can talk to Josh about that. Again, it's my brother-in-law, Melissa's brother. He's been through the business with us and has been managing our SEO, PPC, Facebook marketing for a long time now, and that of a lot of top investors across the country. You can find out if those services are available in your market, because we do limit them per market. You can call him at 210-999-5187, 210-999-5187, and or you can contact him through josh@leadpropeller.com. So get your Lead Propeller website, and then which is great for having that online presence and being ready to receive those leads. And if you want to throw fuel in that fire, get the services to be able to do SEO to rank over time and get PPC and Facebook marketing to get leads like within that first week to start generating those. And that's a great way to do it. And then if you need a way to manage all of it and you need an advantage over your competition, to be able to do this automated marketing and keeping track of all of the leads and then what's happening with your business, even if it is just you or you and your spouse or you and a partner, the system helps you see where you need to improve in your business, right?
Definitely. And it's good. It's for small and for large teams. Anybody can use this system.
Right. So for Flip Pilot, and so it'll be automations, KPI dashboards, phone number integrations, calling, texting, email, team communications, pretty much everything that makes it our dream system. And I'd love for you guys to check that out, flippilot.com. We're going to be doing a limited beta launch in September, and then a full launch shortly after that. So it's very exciting. If you want to find out and get videos and stuff of the features and things that we're releasing, go ahead and head over to flippilot.com and put your email address in there, and you'll get the information as we release it, and also before we release it to everybody else so those people find out about getting access to it. So I know we kind of gone way long on this episode, but it's been a crazy journey,
And I think we just wanted to share with everybody, 15 years of experience and growth, and just hopefully you get something out of that. All the things that we've been through, and know that you're not alone. If you feel like you're struggling or something, we struggled too, and you can get through that and be successful, and
work on yourself. We've grown a lot and continue to do so.
Yep, never stop.
We hope that you decide to grow together with us and listen to the podcast and learn and ask us questions, be a part of the Flip Pilot group, and talk with other investors working on the same thing, trying to to really work more on your business than in your business. So thank you,
Definitely.
everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week for another episode of the Flipping Junkie Podcast. Really hope that you enjoyed this one. And leave us a rating and review. And if you did, and share with your friends and let them know about it.